Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about the future of Bitcoin, specifically its price potential. And, um, you sent me over some super interesting material in Spanish,
Oh,
which,
yeah.
it's a little challenging for me. My Spanish is a little rusty, but
Yeah.
I'm really excited to kind of dive into this with you and see what we can uncover.
Yeah.
So we're looking at an excerpt from an article
Okay.
called Three Reasons Why Bitcoin's Price Will Continue to Rise. So let's see what they have to say.
All right. Well, right off the bat, it's interesting that they link Bitcoin's price increase to Donald Trump's presidency.
Oh, wow.
They claim there's been sort of an upward trend since his term began.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really interesting. Makes you think about, whether there's any actual correlation there. Like,
Yeah.
is it just coincidence or
Yeah.
is there something more to it?
Mm.
But I mean, it definitely raises some questions about how political events can impact, Bitcoin and its journey.
Does.
But the article doesn't stop there. They also talk about these premium indicators
Hmm.
that suggest a bullish long-term trend for Bitcoin.
Okay.
So I'm curious, like, what are some of these indicators and how reliable are they really?
Sure. So when they say premium indicators, they're likely talking about technical analysis tools, like things like moving averages, relative strength index, and MEXC. These tools use past price data to try and predict future price movements.
Okay,
Some traders believe in them strongly, but their reliability is definitely debatable.
I see.
It's kind of like trying to predict the weather. You can look at all the data,
Right.
but you can still get caught in an unexpected storm.
That's a great analogy. So it sounds like we shouldn't take these indicators as like 100% guaranteed truth,
Right.
but they can offer some, interesting insights. The article then goes on to talk about these three big news catalysts that could really shake things up
Okay.
for Bitcoin's price. And the first one is a real head scratcher.
What's that?
They say the U.S. government
Mhm.
apparently holds over 200,000 Bitcoins, and they have plans to reach 1 million. What are the implications of a government holding that much Bitcoin?
Hmm.
Isn't that kind of counterintuitive considering how governments usually view decentralized currencies?
Yeah, it is kind of fascinating. If you look back at the history of reserve currencies, governments have typically gone for assets they can directly control, like
Yeah.
gold or their own fiat currency.
Yeah.
Bitcoin kind of challenges that whole idea by holding Bitcoin. The U.S. government is sort of acknowledging its potential as maybe a store of value or even a future reserve asset.
Interesting.
This could really make Bitcoin look more legitimate to traditional institutions and investors. But it also brings up questions about government influence and potential regulations in the future.
They're trying to have their cake and eat it too, right?
Yeah.
Of embracing decentralization, but still wanting some control. Okay, so the second big piece of news the article mentions is about accessibility.
Okay.
They say that U.S. banks might soon offer Bitcoin directly to their customers. This sounds like a huge change from how we buy Bitcoin now. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, right now, if you want to get into Bitcoin, you often have to deal with exchanges, which can be a little intimidating for the average person.
Yeah, definitely.
But if banks start offering Bitcoin directly, it could become as simple as opening a new bank account.
Wow.
This could bring in a whole wave of new investors, driving up demand and potentially the price.
So it's like a double-edged sword. On one hand, it makes Bitcoin more mainstream and user-friendly.
Right.
But on the other hand, does it also risk giving more power to the institutions that Bitcoin was initially meant to circumvent?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's definitely a tricky situation.
Okay, so the third and final piece of news focuses on the Czech Republic.
Hmm.
And their central bank is considering allocating 5% of their reserves to Bitcoin, just like gold. This sounds like a pretty bold move. Could this be the start of a Bitcoin reserve race, as the article suggests?
Yeah, the Czech Republic's move is definitely something to watch. It would be the first country to officially make Bitcoin part of its national reserves.
Right.
And, you're right, it could potentially set off a chain reaction. Imagine other countries seeing the Czech Republic doing well and deciding to diversify their own reserves with Bitcoin.
Yeah,
This increased demand from central banks could really impact the price.
that makes sense.
Like the article mentioned BlackRock predicting Bitcoin could reach $700,000.
Yeah, BlackRock's prediction is definitely eye-catching. But how realistic is that number, really? What factors could actually lead to such a massive price surge?
Well, their prediction is based on the idea that more countries will follow the Czech Republic and put a chunk of their reserves into Bitcoin. And if you add that to growing adoption by
Yeah.
institutions and individuals, the demand could really outstrip the limited supply of Bitcoin.
Right.
And this basic supply and demand principle could push the price way up. But of course, this is just a prediction. And there are many things that could affect Bitcoin's price in the future.
Okay, so to wrap things up, the article points to three main reasons. Why Bitcoin's price could surge: U.S. government holdings, increased accessibility through banks, and this potential Bitcoin reserve race, triggered by the Czech Republic. It really gets you thinking about the future of global finance and Bitcoin's role in it.
It does.
So what's your final takeaway from all of this?
I think what really strikes me is how quickly things are changing. We're seeing governments and big financial players getting involved with Bitcoin in ways that we couldn't have imagined just a few years ago.
Yeah.
The next few years will be really telling in terms of whether Bitcoin truly goes mainstream or stays a niche investment.
This has been a really fascinating deep dive. Thanks for breaking down these complex topics for us and helping us navigate this constantly evolving world of Bitcoin.
You got it.
And to all you listening out there, we want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this whole idea of a Bitcoin reserve race? Is it a crazy idea, or could it actually become reality? Keep those questions coming and stay curious.